following program on Adaverna 24 is classified as PG. It is intended for younger children in the company of an adult. It may contain some suggestive dialogue, infrequent coarse language, some sexual situations, or some moderate violence. Viewer discretion is advised. The following program on Adaverna 24 contains scenes of smoking and drinking. The Health Ministry of Sri Lanka warns that smoking and drinking are injurious to health. Viewer discretion is advised. We would like to remind our viewers that the views expressed in this program by our participating guests are solely viewpoints of them who take part and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Verana Media Network.
Welcome down to Gen XYZ right here on Adaverna 24, where we're going to talk about taboo topics. Today we're going to talk about a very concerning topic when it comes to the youth members infected with, of course, smoking. It's not smoking just in basics. We're talking about smoking cigarettes, multiple amounts of cigarettes, of course, that are causing respiratory problems, not just cigarettes. Now we're also smoking vapes. This is a mega problem when it comes to the world and Sri Lanka as a whole as well. And that is exactly why we're talking to a professional. This is Dr. Vatsala, of course, Gunasinghe, who is a very amazing professional when it comes to knowing facts and figures of the respiratory problems. So thank you so much, Dr. Vatsala, of course, for doing this conversation with us. It's a very important conversation we need to have as well, right? So with everything going around, I have to ask you a very important thing, right? What is the stats presently in Sri Lanka when it comes to the youth members being addicted or caused, having causes of cancer, causes of respiratory problems for the cause of smoking?
It has been identified worldwide, like the smoking as well as e-cigarettes or vaping has becoming a problem, and it has, like in other countries' studies, you can see that youths, especially middle school and high school students, are involved in this vaping. So the same is true for Sri Lankan situation as well. But the only thing is we don't have proper statistics. But whatever the data we have and with the common communication with the youth, we know that it's available and being offered to the youth and the children of Sri Lanka, and especially in the urban districts. It's in the schools and also small social gatherings. These vaping products are offered, and as well as smoking. Of course, it has been there for a long time.
Right. Now, obviously, I want to ask you, getting stats is not easy in Sri Lanka as well, right? What is your representation when it comes to Sri Lanka and really doing respiratory problems?
I'm a consultant in respiratory diseases, the consultant respiratory physician in National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases, Sri Lanka, Velisara. So, of course, we see so many patients who are having their diseases due to the causative agent is smoking. Okay, so many of these patients, the disease called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD. It's like a asthma-like syndrome where you can get cough, shortness of breath, and sputum production, lot of phlegm. That happens late in disease, late stages of the age, so elderly or older people. But now because of the smoking and increase in smoking prevalence, especially in youth, now we see more asthma exacerbations due to smoking and smoking related products. And also it's well known that smoking is associated with lung cancer. So that is also one major problem worldwide as well as in Sri Lanka.
Right. But what is the main culprit when it comes to lung cancer? Because I feel like lung cancer is something with a big connotation when we have to talk about it. What is the main cause of it?
Main cause of lung cancer, of course, it's if you look at a causative agent, the most identifiable risk factor is smoking. So it has been there for ages, but now because the indoor and outdoor air pollution is increasing, that has also come as a cause, and it has a role, especially in females who get lung cancer. So most likely they are related to indoor air pollutants.
Okay, so if that's the case, then isn't pollution or air pollution the main culprit when it comes to, respiratory problems as opposed to smoking? Or what exactly is it? Because
no, if you look at the worldwide data, if you look at the deaths or mortality due to respiratory diseases, COPD it's the third cause of the serious cause for death. And the sixth is due to lung cancer. Both has been proven to be related to tobacco smoking.
Right, right. So you're talking about passive smoking when we talk
Yes.
about pollution, right?
Yes.
So if someone is standing next to you and if they're actually smoking right next to you, you have to have meetings, you have to have conversations with people. But is passive smoking as dangerous as direct smoking?
Yeah, it is as dangerous because especially the vulnerable age groups, especially young children as well as pregnant women. But for others also it's a known risk factor to cause lung cancer, chronic bronchitis, COPD, and also to get recurrent infections. So this has been proven and has been known.
But this is purely through passive smoking only?
Yeah, passive smoking only, because WHO statistics says it is about 600,000 per year deaths due to passive smoking only, not active smokers, but due to passive smoking.
Right. But see, when the problem here is the fact that it's also a culturally accepted thing, right? Smoking. Many people, obviously, especially in the youth that are watching him right now as well, can definitely agree with it, where from the basis of your school, everyone's like, you're an adult, you're very cool if you start smoking.
Yeah, that's
I feel like,
yes.
yeah, that is a problem in Sri Lanka as well.
It's a problem, and actually if you look at the way back in 1950s and so, it was a fashionable thing, isn't it? That is how it was introduced. So initially it is a cool thing or a hot thing, something that you do in social gatherings. But I think we are moving away from that concept. Now worldwide the smoking rates are actually coming down. But generally, but it's not that so in youth groups. Maybe in Sri Lanka also, although we don't have the proper statistics, there is some kind of rise, especially regarding not tobacco smoking, but related to vaping and e-cigarettes.
Yes. Vaping is a big problem right now in Sri Lanka as well, because everyone's vaping. So what is vaping as dangerous as smoking cigarettes, or is it vice versa? What exactly is the problem?
Yeah, first of all we'll look at what is vaping. Okay, so vaping is what is called as e-cigarettes. So it's an electronic device. When you heat some kind of juice or a liquid, and a vapor is released. So some of these will have like nicotine, some will not have nicotine but have other flavorings and all. So these are available, like although in Sri Lanka these are not like legislatively approved things, this is legally not approved, but because these things are lax and nobody is really controlling, it's available. If you just search for e-cigarettes or vaping in Sri Lanka, there are so many places you can buy and use this. So this product, there are so many problems. It's not a safe thing because one thing is if it has nicotine, it will cause the adherent problems due to nicotine addiction and all the other things. And also because these juices have different compounds like glycerols and some compounds that will, when you vaporize it, it will cause some kind of carcinogens. There's a risk of carcinogens.
Can I know exactly what carcinogens
is? These the aldehydes. So they have aldehydes, and sometimes they even contain some of the when you analyze the fluid, sometimes it has also revealed the metals like arsenic even.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so because these are not very controlled products, so there's always this problem of and risk. So it is not it's not what if you look at the US regulations, CDC and FDA, what they say is you can use e-cigarettes if you are totally stopping smoking and as a substitute you are using the e-cigarettes, but not for any other not for youth, not for pregnant women, not for anyone who has not smoked before. So, and also FDA has categorically asked not to promote e-cigarettes as a substitute for smoking. So they can't say that e-cigarette use will you can stop smoking by using e-cigarettes.
Right, right.
Okay, so that's the situation worldwide, and in Sri Lanka also this problem is coming up. So we need some legislative measures.
Right. So I obviously have studied in school when it comes to respiratory system, where if you do smoke cigarettes, it's going to leave back a tar
Yes.
in your alveoli, if I'm not mistaken. Those
Yes.
little bags that you get in your lungs, right? Is it the same with vaping as well, or is it different?
Vaping, of course,
Because-
vaping does not have tar because vaping mainly has nicotine and other substitutes. So the issues, as I said, we are not sure what are the other constituents, and we have studied like in other countries. In India, it is totally banned. Since 2019, it is totally banned. Even keeping a vaping device with you is illegal. So we can see that these are not safe substances. Although it doesn't have tar, that does not make it a safe product.
But they do say that vaping is more dangerous than smoking because it fills your lungs up. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like something that is, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's like
because
drowning yourself into death, isn't it?
Yeah, you are correct in a way, because now you know because of tobacco smoking you get some like it will take some time for your symptoms to come. You have to use it for some time for your problems to start. You get symptoms later
Yes.
on, but not in vaping, because there are serious conditions like they are similar to severe pneumonias that has happened in youth who has used vaping or e-cigarettes. Okay, there's a condition called electronic cigarettes and vaping associated lung injury, EVALI. It's a severe condition. You need ICU care, ventilation. So these cases are regularly reported. So this is not as safe as someone will presume. Sometimes they say it's like a chewing gum, it's like just a flavor, but not so. It's not so.
The ones that don't have nicotine, right, which is the addictive drug of things, is it still unsafe, or is
It is still unsafe because
Right.
there are the inherent properties, because these are devices, electronic devices. So there's issues related to electronic devices. There had been like explosions, blasts, and those things, because these are not
Right, right.
regulated.
But is it respiratorily bad? That's
Respiratory
the question.
blood, yes,
Right.
in the sense that is why none of the health agencies recommends it as even as a substitute. They can't promote it as a substitute for smoking even, because the research are lacking, data are lacking, and there are some evidence definitely that says these are not safe and can cause problems.
Right. Now, Dr. Vatsala, I have to ask you, these are problems after problems, right? What is the solution to it? Because I feel like that is the main problem that we have to solve, right? What is the solution to all of this?
Yeah, I think solution is, of course, education and awareness. From the young ages, you should be educated of these things. Right. What are the products available, and what are like whether they are safe or unsafe. And also the children should be like, this is mainly focused on children, youth, and young adults. So they should be diverted to alternative ways of being happy, because these happens in social gatherings. Generally these things are offered when in small gatherings, and they use it and then continue to use it. So there should be, one thing is we should educate and empower our youth to take the correct decisions, as well as there should be legislative measures where we have to control, because earlier this came as like non-drug, there was no control even in other countries. Now of course with the evidence coming, now the FDA and all, they have started registering these products, and all the constituents also they have to separately register, and also the people who sell them has to be registered. So they are also starting this process of, of course, we don't just having the term that all the tobacco e-cigarette devices are banned is not enough. We have to have the all the breakdown of things that we are going to do as a legislative measures, and we should implement them correctly.
Right, but see, everyone talks about educating the youth, educating and bringing in more legislation as well, but it doesn't really do much. It's not effective if you consider it, because smoking and vaping, for an instance,
I think
has been a problem for the past, I don't know how many years now.
Yeah, smoking, of course, we have been successful, I think. Although you say that youth are smoking, that is probably in a smaller, smaller scale. Not
But doctor, I mean, if you think about it, everyone's actually smoking, aren't they? Everyone's
what
still
do you
addicted
mean?
to it as well.
What do you mean? Tobacco smoke, cigarette smoking, or
cigarette smoking? Specifically cigarette smoking.
Cigarette smoking, of course, data are not so. Even in Sri Lanka, the rates are going down as an overall thing. Cigarette smoking,
Right.
but of course, vaping, we don't have the data, but probably rising. So because worldwide there's this lot of media and coverage and the education or awareness regarding the health hazards of smoking. That was not there in 50s. It was a cool thing, it was a safe thing at that time, but we know now it's not safe. So it's worldwide it is coming down, maybe not so in the poor, low income countries, but worldwide smoking is less. But of course, vaping is a rising problem.
Right. When someone or one purchases a cigarette box, there are very explicit pictures of people dying off, and there's diseases and all of that. Yet you consider people still buying it and still smoking it.
Yeah, that
right?
is.
It's a form of addiction.
Yes.
With that, of course, we'll talk it on the other side, of course, just after a short commercial break. This is Gen X YZ right here on Other Therana 24, jumping into a short commercial break.
The following program on Other Therana 24 contains scenes of smoking and drinking. The Health Ministry of Sri Lanka warns that smoking and drinking are injurious to health. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Gen X YZ right here on Other Therana 24. We're talking about a very concerning situation when it comes to smoking, cigarettes, and of course vaping, for that matter, in the youth of Sri Lanka. It's becoming an addiction. It's becoming an overuse of this, and that is exactly why we've come to give you and talk about it as well right here on Gen X YZ with Dr. Vatsala, of course. Dr. Vatsala, we spoke about a very important topic when it comes to the boxes, the packaging of cigarettes. You've got so much of explicit images in it, of people almost dying, oozing out, it's very, very explicit, but still people end up purchasing it, right? So it's also because of the connotation of being addicted to it. What is addiction? How do you get addicted to substances like this nature?
Yeah, there are so many addictive substances. Cigarette has this nicotine.
Right.
Yeah, and also alcohol is an addictive substance. And there are other heroin and other cocaine and those kind. So what happens there is actually when you do something pleasurable in your brain, there's dopamine secretion. So that will give you the pleasure. So
Right.
these substances, when you take them, they will increase the dopamine secretion, but not as in usual amounts, but maybe about 10 times more than what is usual for whatever the normal pleasurable activities. So then your brain associate that pleasurable feeling with the intake of whatever that substance. So then you tend to take it over and again and again to have that pleasure.
Right.
But later on, when you take this effects will wear off. You will have to take more and more to get that same amount of pleasure. So that's what happens in addiction.
Right. Is it the same with vaping as well? Because I feel like, for example, if you take narcotic substances, when you smoke those, it's more of the brain that actually sort of asks for it, right? And that's the damage that's caused. Smoking obviously causes tar in your lungs and so forth, and it's obviously causing that. But there are cigarettes that don't necessarily have nicotine either.
Yes.
So, but still people tend to sort of smoke it up.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? So what is that aspect of being so addicted to it?
Of course, we'll have to analyze and do more research why that is, because some of them doesn't have addictive substance as per se, but they have this very clever flavorings. Yes,
yes.
very much like pleasurable, or they're favored by small children or youth.
Yes.
Youth. So not small children, but middle school also, and
Yes.
youth and young adults. These flavorings. So the flavorings are a problem, because that will also give a pleasure, although it is not addictive substance. Then you tend to use it again and again. So there are now FDA, the US authorities have these regulations regarding the flavorings that can be put in these cigarettes.
Okay.
E-cigarettes, yes.
Right. Now, talking about in those lines, I want to obviously mention something when it comes to smoking, right? I'm going to admit it and be quite honest and frank. When you're a youth member, you are very curious to try everything that's there in the world, right?
Yes.
You are going to try it at one point of your life. That's a legitimate raw truth out there. But how much is too much to smoke? How do you sort of identify it? Okay, now you're addicted to it. Then there is something that you have to actually work on in terms of preventing it as well.
Yeah, well, then of course addiction, you identify addiction. When you withdraw that substance, you will have the certain symptoms, isn't it? You will have the craving and maybe restless, you can't concentrate, and those you might sometimes if you consider smoking, you might increase your eating.
Yes.
So those things will be there. So those are the, when you don't have that substance, if you feel the craving, that is the main indicator that you are addicted. So your question is again?
How much is too much to smoke?
How much is too much?
That's the bigger question, because I
Okay.
feel like a lot of people lose track of how much they have to smoke, and then they constantly keep smoking. Sometimes 1 pack a day. They can't, survive without a pack.
Yes, that brings us to an important thing regarding addiction.
Yeah.
So addiction is something that you can't control. So when you start, because of the addictive substance in that, you tend to use more and more. As I said, to get the same pleasurable feeling, you will go to using more and more. So there's no number as such, because you will lose track. As you said, the same thing will happen. So it's not if you are whatever the worldwide health authorities, what they recommend is not to smoke, not even a single one.
Right.
But if you can restrict yourself and you can control it, then using one is far better than using 10 or more. So.
Right, but there is a lot of people that still, these companies that actually sell cigarettes, sell vapes, they're the most richest if you consider it, in the economy as well. What should the government necessarily do in order to sort of prevent all of this? Because if they're promoting it, if they're having it in the country, what's the point of even, like saying, okay, this is bad to do it, then don't do it. What's the point? If it's available freely, and it's one of the booming industries, literally not just in the country, but in the world as well.
Yeah, you are correct in that sense. Yes, that is true. Why have it if it's not to be used?
Yeah.
But of course, I think you and I can't decide on this. There are so many political things and the things that are behind these things. But I think from one side, it's an income generating activity for the country. But still, all the governments all over the world try to discourage actual use by like we have so many rules, isn't it? You can't smoke in public places, and you can't point of sale, you can't advertise. We have these graphical warnings in the so many things have been done to say that if you are intelligent enough, don't use it. So.
Right. See, again, when we talk about the economy, we want people from around the world to come to Sri Lanka. Feel free, if they want to purchase a cigarette because that's their culture in a different country, maybe that's okay. But how do we protect our community, our youths? How do we protect them? Because I feel like this particular thing is not addressed, especially in school. We need to have a subject in school where it says this is what is going to cause, you know, lung cancer. This is what's going to cause respiratory problems in the future. What do we do there? Because I feel like that's a major part of your school as well, or your hospital, to actually prevent all of these, you know, bring it to the schools in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, you have a point, because as I said, whatever the when you want to correct any practice, it's from the young age you should give the correct information, so that they are empowered to decide and they have all the information necessary to make a correct decision. So actually I think our school curriculum has briefly on these subjects, and of course international school curriculums will definitely have regarding smoking and those things. But of course we can widen what we are teaching and give more information and teach them. Of course, this teaching also should happen in a way that you are not promoting smoking, because some of these control programs or whatever the education programs, you highlight what are the benefits or whatever the pleasurable the feelings you get from smoking. So the child might want to just try it at least once. So that is not how it should be. So there should be properly conducted programs. Of course, in my professional body, Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, we have all over the year we have programs to educate the public, also educate ourselves, because last year we had Respire 2023, our annual academic program. So I did a lecture regarding vaping. The topic was vaping, a hidden monster. So that is to educate all of us as professionals regarding these upcoming or the new things that are coming to our country and worldwide, and to be aware ourselves, so that we can educate the youth and the community.
What other projects have you actually done for the moment, and any projects you're looking forward to in the future as well?
Of course, regarding smoking cessation, we regularly are involved in other non-governmental organizations and also media. To educate all the public and also school children regarding the effects of smoking. E-cigarettes or vaping is not a subject that is widely discussed yet, but it is time. We try to publish some articles and all, but there are some restrictions, and sometimes they don't happen the way we want. Yes. Although we give the information, sometimes those things are not published the way we want. So these things are there, so there are barriers, but of course we'll have to work harder.
Definitely, Doctor. I feel like that's something we can all contribute as well, especially the youth watching in as well. Yes. In line of that, I want to obviously ask you a very essential question when it comes to, you know, a lot of the youth members watching in now as well. You mentioned in the previous segment that females are the #1 culprit of having, you know, lung cancer and respiratory problems, right? But if you consider it in Sri Lanka and the culture and the norm in Sri Lanka as well, the females are not the ones who smoke the most. The males are the ones who smoke the most, right? But if you do consider it, people that actually do have lung cancer, or people that do have, you know, respiratory problems, it's not the ones who, you know, smoke the most, if you consider it. It is also the ones, example for you, you said it in the first segment as well, it is the people that actually are exposed to pollution and so forth, and it's the females. So what do you have to say in terms of this? Because it does seem quite contradictory, doesn't it?
Yes, that's a slight misinterpretation, I think, because smoking, of course, causes problems, and it's more in males. And of course, we have a very high number of lung cancer in the males, but we have lung cancer in non-smoking females as well.
Right.
So it's a worldwide trend over the last decade or so. We have noticed more lung cancers in females. Right. So the causes are multifactorial. One is possibly passive smoking, but there are other causes. So, but that does not mean that smoking is a lesser threat. It is the highest and identified and proven threat to the respiratory health, causing COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, exacerbations of asthma, recurrent infections, lung cancer, not only lung cancer, oral cancer, pancreatic cancer, bladder cancer, esophageal cancer, so many cancers. These are proven beyond any doubt. These are associated. and also a lot of recurrent infections, more poor weight gain in children, and ear infection, so many things that can happen because of the passive smoking. So this is a known threat that cannot be like minimized because of the whatever the other environmental pollution or whatever. Those things are, of course, we know environmental pollution is increasing, and we use more electronic devices or whatever the devices, electric devices inside the houses, and we don't have proper ventilation, indoor ventilation as we used to have in the past, so that will cause a threat and because of the indoor air pollution.
I'm going to jump back into that particular question again, because in the lines of what you mentioned, you also mentioned passive smoking again.
Yes.
Right? So if passive smoking is the main culprit to causing lung cancer, again, what are the stats? Females are the highest when it comes to, you know, being prone to all of this, right? And the ones who come back with cancer.
It's not, it doesn't say that lung cancer is more common in females, it's more common in males, and smoking is the main cause. But the lung cancer can occur in non-smokers as well, females as well.
But see, passive smoking, all of us smoke technically, because I smoke, we smoke, everyone smoke technically passively, right? Even you smoke, doctor, if you consider it, right? So how, if that's a cause of, you know, having cancer or causing respiratory problems, how can we actually navigate all of this? Because then you might as well, you know, smoke, for an example, right? Not advocating it, but, you know.
Yes, what you are asking is the risks of passive smoking is much less than if you are smoking, actually smoking yourself. So we can't compare these two. So passive smoking has a risk and it's a threat, but still it is less than if you are actually smoking. Okay, but of course, as you said, if a lot of people are smoking in and around, then you are having this risk. So generally what we advise, if someone can't stop smoking and they have difficulties, to smoke out of their house. Don't smoke inside their house because that will affect maybe their family, wife or the children adversely.
What if you're in a group setting and maybe your boss is probably smoking? It's going to be quite rude to like walk out or say, I don't want you smoking next to me, it's not good, right? So what kind of preventative measures can you personally take to prevent, you know, getting passively infected with other people smoking?
It is of course difficult, but of course I think as a social norm in Sri Lanka, I have never seen anyone smoking in a meeting or somewhere. So it's as a leisure activity. Most of the time people smoke. So I have never encountered in a situation where my boss or somebody in a meeting smokes and I have to tell, please don't smoke. So I think we are not there yet, and hopefully we will. That will not happen. So of course, if we are in in a outdoor space or maybe in a restaurant, of course you can inform, because if it is not a smoking free zone, of course you are not allowed to smoke, isn't it? So then you can probably tell that to the person who owns the restaurant, or if you are willing enough, you can just confront the person itself. So and of course these days we wear masks due to many reasons.
Does masks really help in terms of passive smoking as well?
It might help. Of course, I'm not personally aware about any studies that has been done, but of course anyway mask will decrease the amount of whatever the pollutants you inhale. So there might be a place if you are in a really crisis situation, as you said, somebody is smoking and you are unable to say no.
No, yes. Oh, wow, that's amazing, Doctor. Thank you so much. And with that, of course, we'll go into a different segment, talking about, you know, in terms of how we can sort of navigate certain situations, especially in the youth, with, you know, lung cancer and respiratory systems as well, especially in Sri Lanka, right? So with that, of course, this is Gen XYZ right here on Other Therana 24. We'll be back after a short commercial break.
program on Adhaderana 24 contains scenes of smoking and drinking. The Health Ministry of Sri Lanka warns that smoking and drinking are injurious to health. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Gen X YZ right here on Adhaderana 24, where we're going to talk about something very important, and today is a very important day because a conversation with regards to a problem that has been occurring for years and years. This is of course being addicted to smoking cigarettes and of course other substances as well, and something that is actually taking right now is of course the scalability of vapes. Now we're in conversation with Dr. Vatsala, of course, Gurasinghe. Thank you so much for doing this conversation with us. It's a very important conversation we need to have as well. Now, with the lines of everything we spoke in the previous segments, I feel like we need to come to the hardcore aspect of what smoking is. Why was smoking cigarettes, or why was smoking as a whole created for the world? I feel like this is going to the A, B, C's of what exactly this problem is.
Yeah, it's actually, if you look back at the history, like it has been used in like long time back in North America by the indigenous people. So when Christopher Columbus went there, he brought tobacco to Europe. That's how it started. So then with the World War I and II, the cigarettes has been given free as a whatever for the soldiers. So they have been using it, and then it has been widely used because it was given free, and it's a stimulant, as you can see that it has certain pleasures, although at that time nobody actually knew about the harms. But later on in 1970s or so, there were proven evidence that it is directly related to lung cancer, but the industry itself didn't reveal this. They had the data long time back before the whole world or the legislation did know about it. So the industry knew about the harms, but they didn't advertise. So we continue to use it. Then of course I think there came a time that people knew that this has been sold, knowing that the harms and still being promoted, and that's the time I think in whole world the tobacco became like a substance that people don't like to be associated with. But still all over the world, because of the cultural reasons and so forth, there are tobacco being used. It's not only cigarettes, sometimes it is maybe you are chewing it, there are so many pipes, cigars, and so many products are there. But the risks are the same. Whatever you use, the risks of tobacco, especially tar is there, more than 4,000 or so chemicals are there, the lot of carcinogens are there. So the risks are there.
You mentioned there are many forms and ways of consuming nicotine as well, or tobacco for that reason. So you mentioned gum is a form as well, right?
Yes.
I know nicotine patches and nicotine gum, but tobacco gum and certain things, do they have the same effect of lung cancer and
yes,
things of that nature?
if you think if you chew something, tobacco products, right, then you get not lung cancer, you get cancer in your mouth, oral cancers.
Wow. Okay, right.
So it's not a thing that you can take it at a light weight. No, it's a serious
so it's
issue.
All forms of
tobacco is
right,
harmful.
Right.
Yes.
Something I feel like that you mentioned when it came to the history aspect of things, of talking exactly why cigarettes was created. If you consider it in the modern sense of things, why cigarette was created mainly was because of cold countries. Right? So it sort of brings the temperature down. Same thing with alcohol. It brings the temperature down. That's the main reason of having all of these substances, right? Or having smoking as per se. In a different country when it comes to the weather. Sri Lanka, the weather is completely warm. And we all know this as well, right? So it's just bringing your temperature even down. Are there any other effects? Because when you're bringing your temperature down, is there a different effect as opposed to just respiratory as well? Because the heat is bad in Sri Lanka, right? So is there a different effect to that
I
as well?
am of course not sure about this, the heat and the heat related issues of smoking. Of course, It's a main reason for your continued use of cigarettes or tobacco is the addiction, isn't it?
Right.
So in our country also, it's I think whatever the heat we are having, it's not something that you can use because there are so many other ways you can do a certain thing, isn't it? It's not only the one way, one path, isn't it? Now, if you think you are stressed and you use smoking, then you are harming yourself. You are stressed, true, but taking that cigarette is not going to, in long term, it's not going to be helpful. Similarly, whatever the problem you are having, let's say heat, whatever it is, it's not going to be helpful in the long term because as I said earlier, you have to be aware about the whole picture, not slight bits. I will give you an example because there are studies that say cigarette smoking or whatever, the smoking females have less high blood pressure in pregnancy. Okay, so it's a serious condition, high blood pressure in pregnancy. Smokers have less this complication. But would you smoke because of that? No, isn't it? Because in your pregnancy, it will harm your fetus, isn't it? So it's like that. So similarly, that's a very clear example. The benefit, whatever the said benefit, outweighs the known risk and the harms.
You mentioned pregnant ladies.
Actually, I got it wrong. I think the risk outweigh the benefits.
Risk outweigh the benefits. Fantastic. Now, when we talk about pregnant ladies, especially when it comes to the youth as well, if you're addicted to it, you are going to smoke it, right? But if you're not a smoker, if you're impregnated, if you're not a smoker, passive smoking is a problem as well. Will that still affect the fetus?
It is, yes.
It is going to affect the fetus?
Yes.
The main effect, I think, is the loss of weight in the baby?
Yeah, and also they will, when they are born, they can get more infections.
Right.
And and development also might be affected, but mainly weight and the infections are the.
But then, what is the solution when it comes to like the world right now in Sri Lanka as well, of having so much high pollution? That's passive smoking.
It's not passive smoking because smoke has this specific carcinogens and all. So generally, whatever they are, pollution per se does not have that much of carcinogens. Although they are pollutants and irritants, they are not carcinogens. Carcinogens are the ones that will cause cancer in your lungs. Of course, we have to recognize the problem of air pollution, indoor and outdoor. But of course, that does not say that smoking is a lesser evil. Right,
and you're obviously working in this industry of respiratory problems and cancer and so forth as well. I know how much it could be. It could be quite devastating in some circumstances as well. So, has there been a case where a youth member has come to you saying that this is the problem that I'm having right now? I can't breathe. I'm having so much problem in my lungs as well. And when you've maybe gone in depth to it, it has been so damaging to even like view it. Has there been a circumstance like that?
Of course, there are people who present in mainly in their late 20s and 30s with respiratory symptoms, cough, shortness of breath. If they have been smoking for some time, like they have started in late teens and so, they have developed this already. The damage has occurred, although it's a short duration, and if they have smoked a lot. Of course, the other risk is if you have some genetic predisposition for lung disease, then if you smoke on top of it, then that condition is going to get much worse. And also, smokers can get other infections, isn't it? Like even tuberculosis, then your lungs are totally damaged sometimes when they're present. So these things can happen. Sometimes they are associated with smoking, and yes, the youth, or not really youth, but in 20s and early 30s, they can present with problems related to smoking.
You said there are certain problems where you might have lung problems already, right? Prior lung problems. How do you identify that? Because I feel like that's something that we all might just like walk past, not knowing that we have a lung problem.
Generally, if you are like genetic susceptibility, of course, if you are having family history of like in your family members, if there's long-term respiratory diseases, of course, then you have to be very careful.
Has there been a case where you've obviously administered to but sent you shock waves in your system, like, this is just horrifying? Has there been a circumstance like that for one of your patients that you've treated?
Of course, there had been so many like very young people. Smoking and TB are the ones that has caused like severe lung diseases. So mainly what we get is smoking generally causes symptoms in your 40s or so. So you have smoked for some time, but the problems come later on. But if you are a heavy smoker, problems can come earlier. Some of the TB cases are not related to smoking, but so much of devastating lung damage when they present for the first time.
How long does it take for your lungs to sort of recover? For an example, I smoke for an instance only, I smoke probably say for 2-3 months or maybe like 3 years. I would smoke strenuously as a youth member. How long will it take? And then I stop completely. But how long will it take for your lungs to recover and go back to normal?
Yeah, you know, there are other effects of smoking, like you get high blood pressure, you get increased carbon monoxide in your lungs. So those things will recover quite quickly, like within hours the pressure might normalize and the carbon monoxide will be also washed off. But the effects on whatever the lungs will take more time. Sometimes it will some of the symptoms to resolve, it might take 3 years or 4 years, but the reduction in lung cancer risk at least to half or reach the normal population, sometimes it will be more than 15 or 20 years.
Wow. Okay. And that's just for 1 year of smoking, is it?
Not really 1 year of smoking if you are smoked for some time.
But how long are we talking about?
Any amount of smoking is related to lung cancer.
Right.
So the risk is increased compared to normal. But if you have discontinued, the risk will regress with the time. But still, if you smoked for a long time, we calculate something called pack years. If you smoke 1 pack per day for 1 year, that is 1 pack year. So that if you smoke that kind of smoking for 20 years, that is a really high risk factor for especially COPD. But lung cancer, even with lesser amount of smoking, it's related.
Okay. If you would have to sum up and tell our youth members watching right now, to say in 3 words, what would you say and what's the last message you would tell them in terms of, preventing smoking as a whole?
I think I will ask them to be mindful about your surroundings and what are the promotions, and be aware about the risk, and also be intelligent. I know you are all intelligent, youth are intelligent these days. They are aware about a lot of things, they have access to so many things. I mean, information is there, so judge wisely.
All right, fantastic, Doctor. Thank you so much for having this conversation, a very important conversation as well. And with that, of course, we'll be right back on Gen X YZ right here on Other Therana 24 on a different episode, talking about a very concerning situation that concerns the youth and taboo topics that are very much untouched. And that is exactly what we do right here on Gen X YZ. And of course, if you do miss out on an episode, don't forget we're available on youtube.com/Other Therana English. And with that, I'm Akul Qureshi, your host, and with that, I'll catch you on a different episode.
Crumbling like pastries, they scream. The worst things in life come free to us, and we're all under the upper hand. Go mad for a couple grams, and we don't wanna go outside tonight. In the pipe, fly to the motherland, or sell love to another man. It's too cold outside, angels to fly.